Okay, we're in AP Lit, and we're gonna do three things. I'm gonna give a little warm-up, kind of close reading exercise. I'm gonna check your Bible allusions, and we didn't even talk about it. I mean, if you know what they are, that's the whole purpose of it, is just to remind yourself what these stand for, what they mean. And then we're gonna finish with a poem that illustrates how that works, and how do poets use, how do they use allusions. Knowing the allusion could be the key to the poem, or it could at least be additional content that the average person might miss. We are gonna write tomorrow, I think it's tomorrow, yeah, tomorrow. It's at the most, it's a quiz grade. I think you're gonna put enough effort in it that it's worth that much. We just need to write on poetry, we haven't done that yet. Next week, when you take the test, which will be the first test of the quarter, there'll be a poem, but that's gonna be, I think, pretty easy, because it's a poem you've already read. This will be like the AP exam, where you will not have read this poem, it's brand new to you, and you have to, we'll do what we do every day. But you're gonna be on your own, completely, you're not gonna have anybody help, so that's where we're headed. Any volleyball here, girls? We had 2 in the last class. We need to pray for them. It brings a lot of pride to Caldwell. Anything else? All right, so let me pray. Father, bless this class, and help us to learn something, as they always do. They're always respectful, always attentive. Pray that will continue today. Thank you that we're here. Thank you that your hand's been upon us, because we could have done all those things that we've been doing and still get the virus. So we just thank you for that. Pray for public schools as they're trying to get back up with that. Pray for the election in a week, that your will be done, and that you would bless our nation. So pray for this. Pray for volleyball as they play this weekend, and pray that they do their best. So bless this time together. We're thankful in Jesus' name. Amen. So I'm going to give you something. We've done a similar thing, and it's just an exercise, and I call it close reading. I'm fine. It's just a passage. This happens to be prose. We're going to write about poetry tomorrow, but it's the same principle. So it's a passage. This happens to be, well, I'm not going to tell you, because I'm going to ask you a question, and you figure out what it is. Like not necessarily what the article is, but there's some things you can come to conclusion about. So let me remind you what you're supposed to do with this. It's completely out of context. As I said, you don't even know who wrote it or what it is. And it doesn't matter for what purposes we're going to be using it for. So again, the exercise is, I'm asking you to use all your knowledge of literary analysis, which means the tools of learning and analysis. So in this case, since it's prose, it's going to have maybe less of those those poetic devices, but not completely. Poets, fiction writers use that also. So I want you to look for diction, look for patterns, look for imagery, look for all these things that are used by all kinds of poets and writers. And I'll give you about, at most 10 minutes, probably not that long, and see what you can come up with. Guys, where have y'all been?
Oh, Mr. Schilling on this.
Good things or bad things?
Informative
But it
things.
did not turn out to be.
Good.
Yes.
That's the kind of meeting you like to have.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're just trying this close reading exercise. You're looking for anything you can find. And notice, don't forget syntax. That's the harder thing. We haven't spent a lot of time on it. Sentence structure, sentence organization.
Is there no title?
It does. I'm going to tell you what it is when we're done. It is a part of a bigger whole. It's from a novel, so it's just a fraction of the novel.
What are we doing with this? We're marking the.
Yeah, you're looking for anything, particularly in the area of diction, patterns, any maybe literary, like figures of speech that might be used, like LEAD, don't forget low diction, elevated diction, connotations of words, denotations, abstract diction, concrete. find as much as you can, and you have a limited amount of time, but try to wrap it up. And this is exercise, we're just practicing, so we may not make meaning, we may not find the meaning of any of the things or all the things that you notice, but we're practicing, yes.
So is the quiz on Friday, is it on chapters just 3?
3,
Okay,
Yeah.
but not 2?
no. Well, it looks, I'm impressed, many of you have a lot down there, and the more, the better. Anybody wanna start? We're just looking for anything. Maybe some things are gonna be more important than others. I mean, that's bound to be the case. And it's, we don't know the context, so given all that, Lydia, what did you?
Well, I just kind of noticed that, like, I don't know, just by, like, reading this, it was kind of like a description, and so, like, you couldn't really, I don't know, I feel like you couldn't see, like, the speaker's emotion, I guess, or, like, how he felt about it. I mean, yeah, but, like, I thought he used, like, good language to describe everything.
Well, it's important that you recognize this is almost exclusively description
Right.
of somebody other than the speaker, a thing, and not even a person, but a thing, yeah. Oh.
I think it's rare that a writer actually says how they're feeling, like with the actual word. But I think he kind of says here, marked by the characteristics of the sad sky, cold gale, and small penetrating rain. Those just in general kind of reflect a negative slash, I mean, he literally says the word sad, so I feel like that is very, it just jumped out. I mean,
So what you're saying is his environment, in a way, reflects him, his use of those
Yeah.
words. That's very good, that's what you have to do. You have to look at the evidence and see where it points. Yeah, Lily.
I kind of get the sense that he's kind of brave and curious, because even though he's in a dark, like, place that looks like it hasn't been, the trail's grown over with grass, so there hasn't been someone there a long time. He says he followed it, expecting soon to reach the road, so he's not, he knows that it's gonna lead to somewhere, and he wants to know where.
Yeah, and did you notice how the author handles that? Because you see in the first 3 words of the passage, to this house, and somebody pointed out, even at the end of the passage, it's just one paragraph, or not even, maybe it's even part of a paragraph, he's still not there. So that has been held in suspense, the actual destination, even though we know what it is, we still haven't seen it, yeah.
I noticed that the way that they describe it doesn't make it seem unwelcome, it makes it seem more empty. So even though the author is going there, they don't seem like they're being forced to turn away or to retreat from it.
They are or they aren't being
They
forced. And yet, it's unwelcome. because I think you could maybe make the case that it is unwelcoming, but you're right, he's certainly continuing, yeah.
I think it's kind of, it's just, his wording on it, when he says I followed it, expecting to soon reach in, but then he says it stretched on and on, it went far and farther, like when he says on and far and farther, like, it reminds you of like one of those horror films where like, you know, when they're like running down the hallway, but it just keeps stretching and stretching and it's
A
like
bad
kind of-
dream.
Yeah, like a bad dream.
Did you notice, since you brought that up, did you notice how the sentence itself reflects, not the content, but other aspects of the sentence reflects what you just said? Did you notice that? How does the sentence, anybody wanna comment on that? How the sentence reflects the content? Yeah.
Well, he has like expectations to find something, and that's like clear through, because he enters through that, it's like a stark, tough iron gate with granite pillars, so he's like, has expectations that there's something there, but then the sentence like shows that it keeps going on because it's, like, use the word stretched on, and then, just far and farther, so it's just repetition of.
But, and the sentence gets longer, were you gonna comment on that, Lillian?
Kind of, with like.
Go ahead.
The gate and everything, it almost feels like, kind of like Narnia, when they're going through the wardrobe, and it's like, it keeps going on until they are in like a different land.
Yeah.
But, I thought it was weird how the gate like welcomed him, it says, or no, the gate showed him, where to enter, almost like it's kind of like calling him to come through.
Which sentence is that?
Let's see, iron gates between granite pillars showed me where to enter.
Yeah, personification, yeah, very good, very good. Did you have something, Owen, a minute?
Yeah, I was gonna say, something that, it says like, how it's so thick, dark, grew the temple with a gloomy wood about it, and also it's like, I followed expecting soon to reach the dwelling. And he's expecting to reach the dwelling, but he's almost uncertain that he's there, because he can't really see it.
Right.
He has no sign of habitation or ground was visible, he doesn't even know if it really exists, but he was told maybe, and it's just, there's a whole mystery about the house.
Yeah, and mystery, suspense, yes.
It personifies the trees as like, they're closed ranked trees, it's like it's an army, like
Yes.
closing rank on something.
Very good, yeah.
I thought that the gates, like when it talks about the iron gates between granite pillars, I thought that was a transition point in the passage from where, not reality to fantasy, but like where, you know, he almost loses touch with everything around him.
Yes.
Because after he comes through the gate, you know, it just stretched on and it kept going, no sign of habitation or ground was visible. Where before, you know, even though it was dark, you could still see some things, but now it's like, there's almost
I like the way you're pointing out a transition, you spot a shift, that's something to notice in whatever, poetry, that places where things change. Because he was paying off the driver of the chase, of the carriage, now he's moved, so it's spatially, he's moving from the road or wherever he was, in the carriage, now into the grounds where he is. Yes, Ellen?
I agree with Owen in saying that you can tell how he feels by, like, the words he uses and stuff, and so the repetition of talking about the woods around him, it says, a thick and dark grew the timber, gloomy wood and close range trees, just, it's like, I feel like has to be something of how he's feeling about being where he is.
How does he feel? Even though he never tells us, you can still tell how.
Well, he doesn't seem, he seems scared exactly, but not like acting on that, so almost creeped out and, like Emma Shea said, it seemed empty maybe.
Yeah, good.
So we have how interpreted it as him like telling us like of his journey to the house, and kind of in a spiritual sense, I guess, because it like describes sadness and gloom and darkness kind of going through trials and like misery. And then, well, you said it was part of from a book, so it doesn't really like, here doesn't really, the ending doesn't really like make it that, but I assume that it continues on. But like, for me, that's kind of what it's describing, is like him telling about how his journey was and all the trials that he had to go through.
Very good, yeah.
When it's saying like iron gate, that's like, it could, like, some places have wood or like other kind of metal, but like iron's kind of strong, like indicating like it's like kind of trying to keep something in.
Very good, because it's an iron gate, it's a granite pillar, and you got those close ranked trees, all those indicate strength and something solid and maybe impervious, yes.
Whatever he's doing is kind of suspicious because like he came there after dark, in the rain, and he left the chasing driver behind to go on foot, so I think whatever he's doing, he's secret business.
Finding a body.
Whatever Owen talked about, the tension and the mystery, you know, no, you're the only person all day, and we've done it twice, you mentioned the weather and the time of day. Those are, you mentioned obstacles, was it obstacles? Who mentioned the word obstacles? Somebody used it, I forget, but, those are two additional obstacles. Why is he doing it at night? These are questions, and why in the rain? Be two good excuses, I think I'll wait till tomorrow, but he doesn't, and we're assuming it's a he. You know what this is? I was wrong, I thought it was Poe, and I said it must be Follow the House of Usher, which is a short story by Poe. But I think I'm wrong, I looked it up, I can't remember, I think I typed it in and it came up. This is from Jane Eyre. So I don't know, is Jane Eyre the speaker in the poem? I mean, in the book, I can't remember if it is the first person narrator. Is it Jane or is it some other person? I think it's Jane, anyway. Maybe I'm wrong, it just doesn't add up, this does not sound like a woman, I don't know why. And, you know, you would maintain, but that's irrelevant. Any other points? Okay, can I just mention a couple of things in terms of syntax? First of all, that last sentence, I just want to make that point because it's really a good one. Somebody pointed it out last period. The sentence reflects the interminability of the journey. You know, it's like it goes on and on. He says, I followed it. That's the sentence right there. At least the first part.
Wait, what's
It followed, that's like a complete sentence. There are actually 4 sentences or 4 clauses. I followed it, that's 1. It stretched on and on, that's 2. It wound further and further, that's 3. No sign of habitation or ground was visible, that's 4. So the sentence is long like the journey. I think that's a good example. Look at the first 3 words of the passage. To this house. So we learned from the first few words that's the goal. But he never gets there, as all of you pointed out, or she. The first sentence is basically loose. At least write that down so you'll be able to, means that early at the beginning of the sentence, you have the subject, verb, and the object. So other than to this house, we would normally say, I came to this house just ere dark. So by shifting and inverting, write that word down. That's another word you can use. It's kind of inverted from the normal order, subject, verb, object. The to this house comes first, which is the reason it's there, because that's the subject. Even though it's the last time, I think the word house is used. Notice that same is true in the second sentence. The last mile I performed on foot. Normally we would say, I performed on foot the last mile. I performed the last mile on foot. And that means the word, the last mile is the key to it, which doesn't that support what you've all said about how long this little journey is? It seems to go on in tension, right? Mystery. And when you see the words last mile, what do you think of? Does anything conjured up in your head? It's the last mile. When you see the word last, yeah.
Like the final step.
How final?
In the life.
Yeah, he's not talking about dying, but it sure makes you think of it. He's talking about the last mile of my journey, but that makes you think of life. So that gives it a kind of somber tone. That would be a good thing to note. There's a sense of mystery here, of tension. We mentioned sadness. All these things are created by the passage.
Yeah, I think I wrote down that meaning of like the last mile in this whole thing is that he's like kind of on his spiritual journey where it's like clear what the end goal is because he like goes by the iron and granite pillars. That show that this is the way to go, but like, the world's broken, so it's like all dark and gloomy and stuff, but instead of being all down on himself and wants to turn back, he just keeps going further and further because he knows that this is the way to go.
Okay, that's interesting, you kind of, this could be an equivalent to some spiritual, there's always something more than meets the eye. And why did he pay the guy twice? Why did he pay him twice when it was the fair? Yeah, exactly. The guy wouldn't have brought him out here if he hadn't have made it worth his while. So there's this sense of urgency, and as we've all pointed out, I think Lillian was talking about the darkness and the weather. Why not wait till tomorrow? You can pay. Don't call the plumber on Memorial Day. Don't call him on Saturday unless you have a work agreement with him, because they're going to charge you time and a half or double time. So if you can avoid it, you wait till Monday morning to call the plumber. But you can't always wait. And you wouldn't pay double if you could pay single. So there's definitely urgency here that we don't know about. Look at the third sentence. Even when within a very short distance of the manor house. Now this is bordering on a periodic sentence. So again, whatever details come at the beginning is what the author is trying to emphasize. And what about that path? What do you learn about, like a good detective? We talked about Sherlock Holmes. Remember how he would always look at, the guy would walk in, a client, before the guy could say anything, he says, you've been to China, you're a Mason, and you have 3 children. And the guy said, how in the world did you know that? We've never met before. And he said, well, because of the ring you have is from, says something. The tattoo can only be gotten in China, lower, the southern part of China, and some other thing he notices about the 3 children. That's what you are. You're a literary detective. Every time you read something you've never read before, that you should have that mindset. I'm going to have to pick up on the clues that the author's given me to figure out what's going on here. But what about that grass-grown tract? What does that tell? Somebody pointed this out last period. Yes, Becca.
Nobody's walked on it.
Right. Why is he coming to a place where no one's been down this path and who knows how long? And which direction? We give sort of a direction, going to the house, but relative to where he started, where is the house? It says it's down. So that conjures up all sorts of ideas. He's not moving up, he's moving down, and you can imagine, the idea of hell, the idea of basement, the idea of cellar, anything bad seems to be underground. And you got arches. Very good. That's what we're talking about. I found this. At the bottom, we talked about sound and sense. Remember last week? The sound must seem an echo to the sense. In this case, the structure of the sentences, the order is echo to the meaning. But I love this. This is from Plato, but it appears in Canterbury Tales. The word should be as cousin to the deed. So it's the same principle. Is the way you say something is as important as what you say. With that in mind, good job with that. It's a good warm-up. We have a few minutes. I would like to just check. I'm just going to go around quickly and just see that you have those literary devices. I'll give you credit. I was telling the other class, I checked homework or classwork 18, I think, 15 or 18 times last. And I'm not going to do that as much. It's just a lot to keep up with. We're trying to make sure, we're recording grades. But I might not do it as much. I am going to check homework though. I'll always check that. Maybe not always like the poem we do in class. Oh, yeah. Got it. We'll do the mythology next week. Very good. 2 hours.
Just to watch it.
Yeah,
no, that's a little longer than
Desire.
I think you pulled the TV front side, back side.
Someone over salt.
Yeah. Over there. So we just imagine.
I only pick up 2 things.
I took.
This is like a weird. But it was like. It was like.
How'd you do?
All right, so any of those, I think you knew them all, you answered them all, I don't think we need to go over them. That's, when it comes to illusions, that's the first step, you just have to know them. The second step is applying them, so I think we have time to look at one of these 2 poems. They both contain biblical allusions that I think are key to, particularly the first one we're gonna do is key to the meaning of the poem.
Wait, this week? Mr. Pretty go like, well, Fancy detective at home.
All right, this is will you tell me what kind of poem it is? What kind of poem is the top poem? All right, so pay attention to the title. John Milton, it gives you some dates. By the way, would you have known that other passage was the probably 1900s? I'm sorry, the 1800s, the 19th century. Was
Yeah.
there evidence in there? So
Trees.
you didn't, yeah. The transportation, there are a lot of things. Maybe the high diction. Nobody mentioned the high diction. That would probably the word "ere" (E-R-E) would suggest it's an old. All right, so this is called "On His Blindness." It's except for the first line, which is a oblique reference to it. The poem never mentions his blindness. It's a true thing. It's a true fact that Milton went blind. He was a poet, one of the greatest, one of the 3 greatest British poets, and he went blind. So this is a sonnet about his blindness. Pick up on figure out what, I want you to spot the allusion and then how the allusion applies to the meaning.
Did he have someone like write for him?
I guess I don't know that Braille was not invented that early, I know. So my guess he had an amanuensis. You know what an amanuensis is?
I think he faked being blind.
You know what an amanuensis is? You ever heard that? I ought to put it up there if I could spell it real fast. Amanuensis, just like it's pronounced. Paul probably didn't write the letters. I mean, literally write them, because he refers to at the end of the letters as so and so, or here's. And then I wrote it with my own hand. So it's simply someone who takes dictation who writes. So that's probably the answer. Listen to it, see if you can figure out the allusion. When I consider how my light is spent ere half my days in this world, dark world and wide, and that one talent which is death to hide, lodge with me useless, though my soul more bent to serve therewith my Maker, and present my true account, lest he returning chide. Doth God exact day labor, light denied, I fondly ask? But patience to prevent that murmur soon replies. God doth not need either man's work or his own gifts. Who best bear his mild yoke? They serve him best. His state is kingly. Thousands at his bidding speed and post o'er land and ocean without rest. They also serve, who only stand and wait. So take a minute. We've got a few minutes, and all you're really looking for is the allusion, explain it, and then how does it fit into meaning? So you got to figure out we know the subject, it's about his blindness. Yeah, it is per target. It looks like, again, you can never have enough time, you could look at it, and that's a good thing. But again, before you write, you're gonna have to, tomorrow, or on the test, you're gonna have to spend some time with the text, and you're gonna be debating, should I start writing now? I got 40 minutes, but it's just one of those things, you gotta slow down and then speed up at the same time, yeah.
So for tomorrow, is it gonna be a poem that we've known?
No, the one next week when we write for the paper, that will be one we've already studied, and it's just a matter of kind of organizing your thoughts. This will be brand new, and at the most, it'll be a quiz, at least a homework, it's not gonna be a major grade, but we do need to practice, yeah.
What are each of the letters of LEED stand for again?
Low, elevated,
Abstract.
abstract and concrete, denotation and connotation. Yeah,
Are we allowed to have a dictionary during, to make sure we can define words?
I'd be happy tomorrow if you did, but in the AP exam, you're not, but we're kind of getting started still on that. All right, so, we have a few minutes, we have 5 minutes, 6, 7 minutes. What is the, allusion, and how does it fit into the meaning? Since it is the meaning. Anybody comfortable with? Yes.
I said the illusion is the light, which represents his eyesight.
Definitely, an allusion to that, right. It is, and he says in this dark world. Ella?
Well, I was gonna say, I don't think this is the illusion you're talking about, but when it says the dark world and wide, could that be referring kind of to creation?
Certainly, you could think of that, of course, sin, too, Jessica?
I was gonna say that it sounded like the illusion of creation, with the land, ocean, without rest, and then basically what Ella said.
All right, certainly those things could, come to your mind, yeah.
Well, like looking on the illusion sheet, I thought it was like talking about through a glass darkly, talking just about how we have this imperfect vision, but we'll soon see it in heaven, we'll have a perfect vision of reality in heaven, and so, yeah, I just, and it talks about the dark world, and, yeah, but he says God doesn't
All right, let's see what David's got.
I think that when he's talking about light, he talks about, what God has given him in order to accomplish goals on earth.
Mhm.
But now that he's blind, he can't exactly, or do as many things as he used to do. But it says like in the very last line that though they also serve who only stand and wait, which I thought meant that, even if you did a lot of good things on earth, God would judge you on your character. So I thought that the meaning could have been that God gave him his blindness, as a way of saying that, even though you've done a lot of good things, it's your character that makes you acceptable.
Very interesting, clearly.
I also kind of said the same thing, like, being able to do, like, work, being able to, like, serve others doesn't always make you, like, the best Christian, it's what's on the inside, and even though his sight was taken away from him, he now is only able to focus on God, which,
Okay.
because some people think they need to do like good works in order to reach heaven, but God just requires us to have a relationship with him. And those who do things aren't always even the best people, they just think that that's how they are redeemed.
Okay, yes. Harlan.
I think it's like also like people who are rewarded, who like blindly wait, and the fact that he's already blind kind of is a, it's not gift, but kind of like allows him to eat like more, or more accepting to just wait for God and like be patient.
Somebody
for
else
his
mentioned
own-
that, I don't know if it was,
Did?
yeah, that this is no, that's good, I'm not, that reinforces what we said. What do you have?
On the third through, or sorry, yeah, this third through sixth lines, he says, "And that one talent which is deaf to hide, lodged with me useless, though my soul more bent to serve there with my maker, And he's saying that even though he's just lost his blindness, the fact that he can't see anymore has allowed him to focus more on God.
All right, Clay, you're right on track there, what have you got to add?
That kind of ties in with what Clay said and what Lily said too. It kind of reminds me of when Saul got his eyesight taken away for I think it was 3 days, and that way he came closer to the Lord.
Well, why don't we go, and very good, all these things, these are great, because you're thinking like readers of poetry, you're thinking also, but going back, what was the parable of the talent, or the talents in the Bible, you know that story? The master, Jesus told it, he gave one guy, 1 talent, one guy 2, one guy 5, said, make the best of it, when he comes back, the guy with 5 had invested it and came back with 10, and said, well done, good and faithful servant. The guy with 2 invested it, came back with 4, well done, good and faithful servant. The other guy said, I knew you were a hard man, hard master, so I buried it, here it is. And he says, you're a terrible servant, and he gave it to the guy that had too many. I don't remember exactly what happened to the guy with the 1 talent, but he didn't get the well done. He might have been thrown out and kicked out. So think about that in terms of this poem. The 1 talent he says he has. Now that was a poem about money, but it became, the word talent now became, after that parable, it actually became part of our language as gifts. So the 1 gift he had, and all of you mentioned this, was to write, and now he lost it. And I think you just said it, other people said, what has he learned, and who told him that? Who's the other character in the story besides God himself, and who's the other character? It's about halfway down, and desestet, almost at desestet. It's patience. Patience is personified, and what did patience teach him? And somebody already mentioned this. It's not all that you do, it's how you stand and wait. Good job. And let's listen. I think you go. We'll see you tomorrow. Just be prepared to write in the morning. Yeah. Yeah.